I've been very disappointed that we failed so many ways this year. We need reform in our judicial system. We need stronger bond reform. We need reform in our juvenile justice system. We need drug courts. And the fentanyl drug issue that plagues our state is killing people every day, every hour, and every few minutes. What about human trafficking and child abuse? What about helping veterans and the disabled and the poor? Do you really think there aren't other problems? What about that 14-year-old little girl who was trafficked and murdered last Friday in Dorchester County? What about her? Don't we think we need to do something about those issues? But many of these issues haven't even been touched because we don't have time. We've debated abortion 4 times in 8 months. We've had to stop what we were doing to make sure we get adoption laws passed faster because we're going to have so many more babies once we stop abortions. And some of the adoption bills even want a policy so we can return babies. A return policy. I guess babies are going to be like puppies now once they're born. Once they are no longer the unborn, we can just bring them back. If they cry too much, or if their hair turned red and we're brown, we have brown hair, or if they ended up not being that perfect child, they might even want to return them once they get older because they didn't realize how difficult it was going to be. You can just take them back. If you take back your children now, we call that abandonment. As of this morning, we have 3,768 children in foster care and 549 that are legally ready to adopt. That's just today. And if you want to adopt them, you have to adopt that child though with a no return policy. I passed out a list this morning of 6 children. You got their names, I'm not going to read them to you. But it's 6 children that you could go right now, today, and adopt. I mean, one 16, 15, 13, and 2 12-year-old, a 12-year-old and a 13-year-old brother, you could go right now and adopt these children. We have 549 children who are legally free, that are up for adoption, and 167 of those are legally free and have no one out there that's holding them up. There's nothing holding them up to be adopted. 7 of them are 0 to 1. So those of y'all that want babies, there are babies out there. 10 of them are 2 to 3 years old. 9 of them are 4 to 5. Now you get more when they get older. 6 to 9, there's 19. 10 to 12, there's 37. And 85 are 13 to 17. But nobody wants to adopt them. We did send a bill over to the House in February, and had the House not wanted to make this an election issue, they would have passed that bill. And they would have kept South Carolina from being that abortion destination state we all like to call it. But that's not what they wanted. They wanted it their way or no way. Well, we're not backpedaling now. The House wants to be the upper chamber. And by God, we keep proving they are. In the last few years, we have turned tail and run every time they tell us to. They already tell us who judges are going to be. And they make decisions, and we can't make decisions without getting their permission. Just once, can't we do the right thing? I've had a lot of time to think this over. And maybe you've given me too much time, or maybe just enough time. I have been put on a guilt trip. That's the trip where, that's not what you're supposed to believe. And you have to take care of babies. You're a baby killer first. How does anybody know what I'm supposed to believe? I think I can think and act for myself, or so something you have given me to read says. Second, I take care of babies, lots of babies. I take care of toddlers, small children, middle schoolers, tweens, teenagers. I even send kids to college. I am certainly not a baby killer. I would never harm any child. I have been told, you know, this isn't good for you politically. Well, how's that? I have now polled my district twice, and the state has been polled. The caucus sent out a mailer, and no one believes what is being pushed on the citizens of South Carolina. But those of you that are here just for the next election are where you want to go from here. So shame on you. You should be here for the people you serve now, especially for the women. Now here's a fun fact. Men, now y'all might not like this. Did you know, well not each one of you individually, but men are 100% responsible for pregnancy. Yes, gentlemen, that's right. Women are only fertile 2 days, actually 24 hours a month, in a 6 or 7 day window. Men are fertile 100% of the time. So it's time for men in this chamber and the ones across that hall and all across the state of South Carolina to take some ejaculation responsibility. I don't mean that joke of that amendment about child support at conception is responsibility. That is about as funny as getting child support paid now. Just last year, DSS had to fight to collect over $202 million in child support. And that was just a portion of the over $350 million owed last year, and just a fraction of the $1.2 billion in total unpaid child support that's due right now. So you can just take that ridiculousness right out of here. You're not going to get it. Women will just be left to do it all once again because of that 100% responsibility men forget about. Remember, men can leave that woman after rape, incest, one-night stands, or just a bad relationship, never to be seen again. They don't have the responsibility of carrying the baby for 9 months. They don't have the responsibility of raising a toddler or a preschooler. They don't care about the preteen who is acting out in school or the teenager who needs to learn to drive, get a car, and get insurance or graduate from high school, unless they want to. You see, they didn't have the baby, and all the laws that you make, that we can make in here, can't make them show up and support that son or daughter. All the laws we make can't make them a two-parent family. That little boy who just wants a dad, you can't put that into a law. It just doesn't work that way. All the laws you make can't make people love on them or to protect a woman that was traumatized by rape or incest. And you can put them in jail for rape and incest, but jailhouse salaries don't support a child, and they don't give them the daddy they need just to love them. Men have a whole different look at how this works. Men have an entirely different makeup, different hormonal makeup. I don't know any man in this chamber who's been pregnant or gone through the hormonal changes a woman goes through. When a woman finds out she is pregnant, this can be the most exciting time in her life if this is what she had planned. It took me 2 years and lots of doctor's visits to get pregnant. So I was excited when I got the news. But it can also be the worst thing ever if she's not ready. If you were raped and ashamed to tell anyone and then you find out you're pregnant, if you are in a home where you were abused by a family member and seriously your life depends on not talking about it, or if you're a teenager with a deadbeat boyfriend, every young girl doesn't come from your home. Every woman doesn't have a great relationship, like I'm sure all of your wives do. Some are abused, and you say, well, why don't you just leave them? Well, maybe you should read just a little bit more about domestic violence and how many women and families are murdered every year just for trying to leave. We in the South Carolina legislature are not God. We do not know what is going on in someone else's life. We do not have the right to make decisions for someone else. If you listen to some members of the other chamber just the other day, they feel it is their right to make decisions for women, and it amazes me. I shuddered last week at some of the words I heard come out of some House members' mouths, and their lack of concern for women. They do not anyone want telling them what to do when it comes to their property or their own personal business. But when it comes to women, they want to be in your business from the bedroom to the delivery room. Here's the only thing I ask you to do. Support this amendment to give women and children a chance. A woman who wants to have a baby will be a good mother and will love her baby and nurture it, even if there isn't a dad in the picture. A woman who has a chance to make this decision on her own and not mandated by the government to make a decision will make the right decision. Don't force women into making a decision in 6 weeks for something they may not even know is happening. If you pass this amendment, South Carolina will not be a destination today, and there will be fewer South Carolina women having abortions because you are giving them the chance to decide on their own and not forcing them to make a quick 6-week decision. Have faith in people that they will do the right thing. Remember, we are not the morality police, and you cannot be someone else's conscience. We must let people make these decisions for themselves. I'd like to move for passage of this amendment.
President. President.
Senator from Anderson, what purpose do you ask?
Be heard on the amendment.
Recognize. While the senator comes to the podium, Senator from you, what purpose do you ask?
And Senator, I'll take your request. The words from the Senator Flexton and Senator Shealy be formally withdrawn.
Without objection, the words from the Senator from Lexington and Senator Shealy will be placed in the journal. Senator from Anderson, Senator Cash is recognized to speak on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. So what we have before us, of course, is the fetal heartbeat bill that we sent over to the House, and they have now sent it back to us. And what the amendment before us does is move it from a fetal heartbeat bill to abortion on demand through the first 12 weeks of pregnancy. That's what this amendment does. There's always been 2 central questions in this debate. One question is, when does a human life begin? The second question is, when is a human life deserving of legal protection? Those are the fundamental questions you can't get away from. Now, we have before us a piece of paper showing the relative size of a developing human being compared to fruit. And let me just say, I don't take offense at it. My youngest daughter recently delivered a baby. And when she went to her appointment, at one point she came back and said, well, the baby is now the size of a raspberry. From that point on, that little baby was known as Razzie, or Baby Raz. For months, we referred to Baby Raz. Babies don't come fully formed by the store. Babies begin with the union of the sperm and the ovum. That's how God designed it. But if at any point in the process you destroy that human organism, that living being, then you've destroyed a unique person. If you had taken baby rats at the size of a raspberry and performed an abortion, then today there would not be a Peter Dietrich born. Because we understand Baby Raz and Peter Dietrich are actually one and the same person. One is simply in an earlier stage of human development in utero. When the baby comes out, it's still not an adult. It's going to go through many more stages of development before it reaches the adult stage. So on what basis do we say we're going to write a law, we're going to draw a line by a majority vote in which we can kill that human being? That's what this debate is all about. I'll be the first to say it's a terribly flawed bill that we're going to vote on. This fetal heartbeat bill filled with inconsistencies and exceptions. It fails to protect human life from the beginning. But it's certainly much better than this amendment that's been offered. It's certainly protecting an individual human being at a much earlier point in time. And I'm all in favor of that. But let's be clear. This is a human rights issue. It is a human rights issue, and there are two human beings at stake here. Competing rights at stake here. Which brings us back to first principles. All men are created equal, that they're endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. When anything overtakes that first right, that right to life, we've got things upside down. So we're going to vote on this amendment. Eventually, hopefully, we will vote on and pass this bill. I've got some people who want me to introduce amendments to change the bill, to get votes on different aspects of the bill that are faulty. And I don't intend to do that. I intend to vote to table all the amendments that are offered, so we can pass this bill and send it on to the governor. We know that it's been a long and contentious process since last summer. And I don't disagree that we're not through with it. It's a fundamental human rights issue that's not going away, certainly not in our lifetime. Fetal heartbeat bill. Not a perfect bill. Certainly much better than what we have now, which is 20 weeks. Certainly will probably save half of the 1,000 or more unborn babies that are being aborted, whether through chemical abortions by pills or sucked out of their mother's womb by a vacuum cleaner. We'll save half those babies. It's a start. It is a step in the right direction.
Senator.
Mr. President, I'm not going to take questions.
Okay, refuses to yield. Senator Manners.
So that's it. I'm not going to be long. I urge this amendment be tabled and all subsequent amendments.
Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President. Mr. President.
Senator Darlington, purpose. Senator from Anderson made a motion to table. That's a non-debatable. Senator from Darlington.
The senator from Anderson will withhold his motion to table for those that wanted to speak on it or have a question he wants to answer.
I will withhold the motion for those who wish to speak on the amendment.
Senator withholds the motion. Senator from Charleston. Senator Sin on purpose.
Because you cannot withhold another senator who desires to speak or to ask a question. This is the second. This is the second. You cannot take a question.
Senator Charleston. Senator Sin.
We're seeing a pattern here. the pattern seems to be that if you don't want to answer my questions, you just, for whatever reason, you don't want to answer my questions, all it does is make me have to come up here, and then I kind of have the floor, and I can say what I want, okay? So here's what I'm going to say about this amendment. Not only is it entirely reasonable, it gives women 12 weeks, it is what can be passed. Women will have had 2 fitness periods, they should be feeling changes, and they should, I think we all can agree, that they should be on notice at that point that they're pregnant, and they need to make decisions sooner rather than later. But here's what I just heard from the Senator Anderson. He says this new bill, that all the 14 pages that the House added, is faulty. Now, I wanted to ask him why, how it was faulty. I can't jump into his mind on that, but I bet you he thinks it needs to be a little bit tougher. Bet you he thinks we ought to take it back to total abortion. Although I have no idea of that, but I can say this. Most of the people, a lot of the people in here voted for the version that we passed. They voted for it, including the senator from Anderson. And yet, the senator from Anderson didn't stay up here long enough for me to ask him whether or what both he and Representative McCravey and the majority leader and Speaker of the House were talking about over there whenever this new version came out, the new bill, the new strike and insert. I wasn't able to ask that, but I can tell you this. What we passed may not have been perfect either, but what we passed. And now what they've done is make significant changes. He would like to see even more made, but he's not going to do it out of fear that he's going to mess up a bill that he has already held. He already knew about all this strike and insert way before we did. It was like a deal, some type of deal, a deal that the rest of us as the Senate didn't get to know about. And it's something that we as senators should not tolerate. We should not tolerate backroom deals being made with the House when they don't know how we feel about it. We should not tolerate having a surprise on us like that. And that's exactly what happened. The people over in the House had to work for 40 hours, I think it was, all because of this amendment that was told was going to pass. And I do hope that you read it closely. I've outlined some significant changes. There are significant changes. And to the extent you stood with us on the total abortion ban, know this. The bill is going to lead back to personhood because it changes everything. It changes the definitions. Even with respect to the 6-week bill, it takes it back to 4 weeks. This is important. This is not something that we all voted for. So if you stood with us the first time, I'm going to ask that you stand with us again because these are significant changes and it's something that I don't think will pass constitutional muster, but it is going to take us directly into personhood because it is life begins at its conception, and then the legislative finding says the state has an interest in that egg, that fertilized egg. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Relinquishes the floor. Senator Donald, I'll come to you.
President.
Senator from Donald, what purpose do you ask?
I'd like to hear.
You're recognized. Please recognize the outcome. Senator, Senator, what purpose do you ask? Recognize Senator from Kershaw.
I don't know if I can be as eloquent as a senator from Lexington or as pointedly direct as a senator from Charleston or as passionate as the senator from Colleton or as calm as a senator from Richland. She's always very calm. I voted for S1. We passed it. It went to the governor. It did not hold up to constitutional muster. Then we had 474. And I voted for that too. I voted for our version of S 474. And it was very clear that, at least the women, I don't know about everybody individually, I'll just speak for myself and put it that way. I was not going to be satisfied if the bill were changed. It's not the same bill. It's not 474, it's just something different. I came to the South Carolina House last week. I sat on the floor as they were debating their billion amendments, and I listened. And I also talked with a number of House members who are both Democratic and Republican. And I will tell you, they were as shocked as I was to learn that this was not a slam dunk, that one amendment. One of the Republican House members told me, with the jaw drop, well, we thought that, just this amendment is okay, this is all right. And then, and that's it, just that one amendment. And I said to this person, but it's not one item, it's many, many, many items. I thought I would get a different response when I talked to a Democrat in the House, and they had the exact same response, which made me really wonder about things that have been suggested here, and we know that happens. You can call them whatever you want to, backdoor deals, private discussions. This happens everywhere, in every organization, pretty much. I kind of expected it here, except for I really felt like we got slammed out of South Carolina House. I also attended the House Judiciary meeting to see for myself, because I just like to see things eye to eye for myself. And I went up to Senator McCravy and I shook his hand before it started. Excuse me. Representative McCravy. I shook his hand and I just simply said, please pass the bill. That's all I said. And I sat down. He smirked back. Nobody in the South Carolina House ever came to me personally to ask my opinion about anything. Ever. All the conversations were among the leadership, which is fine, but you would think at some point, because it's about women's health and women's bodies and babies, you would think at some point we would be asked. Perhaps a senator from Lexington was approached. I was not. It didn't have to be contentious. This really didn't have to be that contentious. But I will tell you, I took offense when certain senators did it as well last fall and told me I was basically, he said basically if you didn't support a total abortion ban, you're going to hell. What do you do with that? The suggestions that we are not Christian women, that we are rhino baby killers, is insulting. And believe me, we're in this as much as y'all are. This is not an easy topic for anyone. I've been surprised by certain people I know in my circles. I have many, many friends and constituents who do not want any abortions. And with many of them, I'm able to talk with them, speak with them, and we discussed it. But some of them are no longer my friends. Of course, they never were they? The changes that South Carolina House made, so many of them were unnecessary. It was just extra stuff. If anything, we need to be reducing our bills and not making them quite as detailed and long. We need to definitely not make unnecessary restrictions. I voted for the 6-week bill, and like the senator from Lexington, I don't think it's long to make an informed decision. And what bothers me most about that is there is an assumption. I hope everybody's hearing me. There is an assumption that women are going to choose an abortion.